Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into a really insightful collection of sources, giving us a focused look at what's buzzing in Korea right now.
Yeah, and maybe more importantly, what those local headlines might signal for, the rest of us globally.
Exactly.
We've got five top news stories lined up from July 16th, straight out of Korea. But each one really has these significant international ripples.
Right.
Our goal here is kind of sift through the noise, pull out the key insights, and help you connect the dots on how interconnected things really are.
Think of this as your essential shortcut, getting you up to speed on critical shifts happening in the East that will undoubtedly ripple across the world,
From stock markets to trade policy.
even down to how we shop. Okay, so speaking of those global ripples, we really have to start with the tech giants, right?
Yeah.
Samsung Electronics.
It's always a big one.
Their stock is showing some really strong momentum. Hit 63,700 Korean won. That's up nearly 2% just yesterday, July 15th.
And that's not just noise. Samsung's weight in the KBO SPI, Korea's main index, is huge. So it actually pulled the whole index higher.
Right. And the driver seems to be this renewed optimism around NVIDIA. Jensen Huang, NVIDIA CEO, confirmed the U.S. government approved exports of their H20 AI chips to China. Shipments have apparently already started.
Okay, so the H20, that's the one specifically tailored to meet U.S. export rules for China.
Exactly. And for Samsung, the key connection here is its high-bandwidth memory 3, the HBM3.
Super fast memory, crucial for these AI chips.
Right, and it's primarily integrated into these H20 chips. So this is a pretty big turnaround because Samsung's sales of HBM2 and higher to China were restricted before by the U.S. Commerce Department.
What's really fascinating here, maybe beyond just the stock blip, is Samsung's sheer influence on the KOSPI. We're talking roughly 20% of the total market cap.
Wow, 20%.
Yeah, so its performance isn't just a company story, it's a barometer for the whole Korean market, and it sends signals to global tech investors.
So it's like a direct line from a specific trade policy decision.
Straight to market movement and supply chain effects. It shows how sensitive these tech giants are to geopolitical shifts.
Okay, so if NVIDIA's H20 chips are moving again, and Samsung's HBM3 is key for them, does this put Samsung in a much stronger position now? Or is it still, kind of precarious given those past restrictions? Is this like a lasting trend or just a short-term boost?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? What securities firms are saying is, for this rally to have legs, Samsung needs to really cement its lead in the next generation stuff. HBM3E, HBM4.
Ah, okay. Keep innovating.
Exactly. The HBM market is incredibly competitive. Plus, their core memory business, the standard DRAM and NAND flash.
The stuff in our phones and laptops.
Right, that needs a solid recovery too. And then there's their foundry business, the contract chip manufacturing. That segment needs to bounce back from its current slump. So HBM is important, definitely, but it's not the whole picture for sustained growth.
Got it. So multiple factors at play. Now, with such big news for semiconductors, how did other companies in that ecosystem react? Did everyone rise with the tide?
Interestingly, no. Not universally. And that shows you the market nuance. Some related stocks like FST and Symtech, they make materials and components, they saw big jumps. FST up almost 7%, Symtech over 14%.
Okay.
But SK Hynix, another huge memory player, a direct competitor to Samsung and HBM, they actually dipped slightly, about 0.5%.
Huh. Why would that be? With good news for HBM generally.
Well, likely some profit-taking after recent highs, but also maybe some jitters about more competition down the line. Perhaps concerns that Micron might ramp up its HBM3 efforts now, potentially leading to oversupply.
So even with positive sector news, investors are still looking really closely at individual company positions.
Exactly. SK Hynix dipping suggests the market's thinking, okay, good news for HBM, but what does it mean specifically for this company versus its rivals? They're weighing valuation, competition. It's not just about the tide.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more then. That contrasting performance tells us a lot about market sentiment. It's not just AI chips good, it's which company is best positioned.
Precisely. The market is incredibly discerning right now. It's looking at who has the orders, who has the tech edge for the next cycle, who might face pricing pressure. Very nuanced.
Okay, building on that whole U.S.-China chip dynamic, there's this even bigger, more strategic discussion unfolding in U.S. policy. It seems like a potential pivot away from just blocking China's access to advanced AI chips.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting and, frankly, quite complex.
Some U.S. officials are now openly suggesting a different approach, making China, quote, addicted to U.S.-made AI chips, which sounds counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, was on CNBC, and he framed President Trump's thinking as, let China buy the lower-spec U.S. chips, while the U.S. races ahead on the cutting edge.
So the goal is dependency.
Explicitly. Lutnick said the aim is for Chinese developers to be so addicted to American technology. It's a major philosophical shift from just trying to deny access.
And others are echoing this.
Yeah, David Sachs, the White House AI czar, made a similar argument. He warned that if NVIDIA doesn't sell these lower-spec chips, then maybe China's Huawei could just dominate that segment, use the profits to fund their own R&D, and catch up faster.
That's a fascinating point.
He even warned that blocking sales could push countries into China's embrace. And he drew this direct parallel to the U.S. dollar as the global reserve currency,
How so?
suggesting that widespread use of U.S. AI chips, even the lower spec ones, could give the U.S. similar advantages and control, leverage through market dominance, not denial.
Wow. That's a bold strategy, like playing geopolitical poker with very high stakes.
Yeah.
But isn't the risk huge that China just uses this period of addiction to catch up or find alternatives?
That's exactly the gamble, and it's definitely not without its critics. There's strong opposition in the U.S. Congress. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, ranking member on the House China Select Committee, basically said, resuming H-20 exports contradicts existing controls and gives advanced tech to an adversary.
Okay.
And the Republican chairman, John Mulinar, called the H-20 a powerful chip still, crucial for Chinese AI firms, and stressed blocking advanced AI from the CCP. So the debate is fierce.
Was there any other context given for this shift? It feels like maybe it wasn't just a philosophical change.
Well, Secretary Lutnick did mention something interesting. He linked the H-20 approval to a recent trade deal involving China resuming rare earth exports.
Ah, so a quid pro quo.
It suggests these decisions aren't made in isolation. They're often part of broader negotiations, balancing different economic and geopolitical priorities.
This really raises an important question, though. What are the long-term implications of trying to make a rival addicted versus just banning tech? It feels like a massive strategic choice with uncertain outcomes.
Absolutely. On one hand, maybe it secures U.S. tech leadership by keeping rivals dependent. On the other, could it accidentally accelerate China's own efforts if they see it as a temporary vulnerability they need to fix?
Yeah.
The success really hinges on the U.S. staying way ahead technologically, constantly innovating faster than China can catch up or replicate. And that's a huge ongoing challenge.
Okay, let's shift gears from the microchip world to something, well, much bigger physically. Shipbuilding. HD Hyundai Heavy Industries, a giant in Korean shipbuilding, is making some really interesting global moves.
Yeah, their expansion strategy really caught my eye, too.
You're looking at bidding for a 30-year operational right for this enormous new shipyard in Casablanca, Morocco. 210,000 square meters, set to be Africa's largest.
And Morocco's planning to buy about 80 new merchant ships by 2040, so there's demand right there.
Exactly. And this comes after other partnerships. They're working in the U.S. with Edison Chuist Offshore.
On those LNG dual-fuel container ships.
Right. And in India, they've got a big MOU with Cochin Shipyard. India is apparently planning for 1,000 new ships over the next decade.
1,000? Wow.
Plus, they already have operations in Vietnam and the Philippines. It's a truly global network they're building.
If you connect this to the bigger picture, it's actually a really clever way for HD Hyundai to deal with their current capacity crunch.
They have too many orders.
Pretty much. They had a backlog of 451 ships as of May. That's like 2.5 years of work. But they can only build about 180 ships a year.
Okay.
And the industry is in what they call a super cycle right now.
Yeah.
Unusually high sustained demand. So instead of sinking massive capital into building brand new shipyards, which is super expensive and risky because the industry is cyclical.
Right. The boom won't last forever.
Exactly. They're securing operational rights elsewhere and essentially exporting Korean shipbuilding know-how.
And the locations seem very strategic. Morocco.
Gives them Atlantic access, a gateway to major European shipping clients. India wants to build its own fleet to cut down on chartering foreign ships, which costs them a fortune.
About 110 trillion won, the source said.
Yeah, huge numbers. And the U.S. partnership strengthens that U.S.-Korea economic link. It's smart diversification.
It does seem very agile, scaling up without that huge upfront investment risk. But I wonder, doesn't relying on operational rights in so many different countries introduce maybe different kinds of risks? Political instability, logistical hurdles,
That's a fair point. It swaps capital risk for potential geopolitical or operational risk. But shipbuilding is what you call a heavy tail industry. Most of the payment comes right at the end when the ship is delivered.
Ah, okay. Cash flow is slow.
Right, so this partnership model lets them potentially deliver ships faster, speeding up revenue recognition. And crucially, it avoids getting stuck with massive, expensive, empty shipyards when the inevitable industry downturn comes.
So it helps them ride the current wave without setting themselves up for a fall later.
Exactly, it's a strategic balancing act, trying to maximize the upside of the supercycle while minimizing the long-term downside risks.
So bigger picture again. What could this mean for global trade for maritime shipping? If shipbuilding capacity gets more distributed like this, more resilient supply chains, maybe.
It definitely could. Think about it. If ship construction and even repair hubs are more spread out globally, it makes the whole system less vulnerable to disruptions in one region, whether that's, a natural disaster or political tension.
Right.
Plus, it helps countries like Morocco and India build up their own industrial base, which is good for their economies and potentially creates new trade dynamics. It's kind of the decentralization of a critical industry, could lead to more stability, more constructive interdependence.
Okay, moving from these kinds of trade alliances to the more contentious side, trade policy. On July 15th, Donald Trump reiterated his administration's plan to impose what he calls reciprocal tariffs starting August 1st.
Yeah, this brought back memories of the previous term's trade disputes.
He confirmed letters detailing these rates have already gone out to 14 countries, including Korea and Japan, starting back on July 7th.
Okay.
And he specified that small nations, his term, would face a uniform rate of just over 10%. Also mentioned ongoing talks with another 5 or 6 countries.
Right. So this clearly signals a potential return to a more protectionist stance from the U.S., which could really reshape global commerce again.
What exactly does reciprocal tariff mean in this context?
The idea is that the U.S. would impose tariffs on a country's goods at a rate equivalent to the tariffs that country imposes on U.S. goods. And this concept of a single tax rate for certain nations suggests a broad, perhaps less targeted approach.
Directly hitting import and export costs. The clear statement of intent anyway.
Definitely.
What could this realistically mean for big exporters like Korea, heavily reliant on the U.S. market? The lack of specifics must be causing some anxiety.
Oh, absolutely. The big unknown is which industries or products get hit, and who exactly counts as a small nation. That uncertainty makes planning very difficult for global businesses. But the underlying message seems to be a continued focus on achieving what his administration would see as fair or balanced trade.
Businesses will be watching very, very closely for any more details. Even 10% can wipe out margins.
For sure.
And the source also mentioned his comments on Ukraine, sort of tacked on.
Right. He reconfirmed weapons shipments are happening, but reiterated no U.S. troops on the ground.
So clarifying the U.S. strategy there, material support, but avoiding direct military involvement.
Seems to be the consistent line, yeah. Providing aid, but drawing a line at direct intervention.
This raises an important question, though, stepping back.
Yeah.
How might these proposed tariffs, if they happen, impact global economic stability? Especially for economies already dealing with inflation or other pressures. We are just reporting neutrally here, of course.
Yeah, it's crucial to track. While the stated goal might be fairness, economists worry that broad tariffs often lead to higher consumer prices, tit-for-tat retaliation from other countries, and potentially a slowdown in overall global trade. It could add another layer of complexity to an already challenging global economic picture. The ripple effects are hard to predict fully.
Okay, let's bring it right back down to the consumer level now, but with an interesting economic angle. There's this eyewear e-commerce company in Korea, Rounds.
It's okay.
They announced that their affiliated optician stores, 42 of them nationwide, will start accepting these recovery consumer coupons from today, July 16th.
Ah, government stimulus coupons.
Exactly. And they could be used on anything Rounds sells. Frames, sunglasses, lenses, contacts.
Okay.
Plus, Rounds is running its own promotion alongside this, a 1+1 deal on single vision lenses through July and August. And the kicker is, you can give the extra set of lenses to family or friends.
Okay, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's a neat example of government and business working together to boost spendings, right?
I like it.
Those recovery coupons are straight up fiscal stimulus, trying to get people to spend, especially on things they might have put off, like getting new glasses, which, people often delay.
Yeah, the replacement cycle is like 1-2 years typically.
Right. And then Rounds adds their own 1+1 deal on top, making those coupons go even further, encouraging people to spend now. It's quite targeted.
Are we seeing similar things elsewhere? These kinds of vouchers or coupon schemes to stimulate specific sectors?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Lots of countries tried variations of this, especially post-pandemic or during slowdowns. Consumer vouchers, targeted subsidies for certain goods or services. Japan did it, parts of Europe, even some U.S. states.
Right.
This rounds example is just a nice illustration of a private company jumping on board and leveraging a government program effectively. It gets cash flowing locally.
What stands out to you about that transferability part, letting people give the extra lenses away?
That's actually quite clever, I think. It makes the offer much more practical for a household. Maybe you need a spare pair, maybe your kid needs glasses, maybe your parent does.
Yeah, it's not just about you.
Exactly. It lowers the barrier for the whole family, potentially. Reduces household expenses on a necessary item. It feels very consumer-focused, flexible, not just buy one, get one for yourself, but genuinely useful.
So, thinking about effectiveness, how well do these kinds of localized, sector-specific boosts work compared to, say, big, broad tax cuts or stimulus checks?
Well, they can be pretty effective for the specific sectors they target, especially for things like eyewear stuff people need but might put off buying. Their impact on overall GDP might be smaller than a massive tax cut, sure.
Okay.
But they inject cash directly into local businesses, support jobs in those specific areas, and can give consumers a tangible, immediate benefit. It encourages spending right where it's needed, potentially without fueling broader inflation as much. It's about creating that positive local feedback loop.
What a range of stories today. It's really striking how much insight you get into the global picture just by looking at these headlines from Korea.
Absolutely, from tech and geopolitics.
To massive industrial strategy shifts.
Yeah.
Potential trade wars.
And even down to these clever local stimulus efforts. It really underscores how interconnected everything is.
So the key takeaways from today.
I'd say, 1, the incredibly tight link between geopolitical moves and the global tech supply chain, especially chips. 2, the strategic agility we're seeing from Korean industries like shipbuilding, adapting, and expanding globally. 3, the ongoing uncertainty and potential impact of shifting international trade policies. And 4, these innovative domestic tactics to try and boost consumer spending and recovery.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, looking ahead? What are the key things to keep watching?
Definitely keep an eye on the specifics of any new U.S. tariff policies, who they target, what the actual rates are, especially for big partners like Korea.
Yeah.
Watch the U.S.-China tech dynamic. How does that chip strategy actually play out? Follow the upcoming earnings reports from Samsung and SK Hynix. That'll give us real data on the HBM impact.
Right, the proof will be in the numbers.
Exactly. See if HD Hyundai actually secures that Morocco deal and what new orders follow. That's the test of their expansion plan. And finally, watch Korea's overall economic indicators for Q3 and Q4. That'll tell us if these domestic stimulus efforts are actually moving the needle on consumption.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How much of tomorrow's global economy is being sketched out in today's local news from places like Korea?
A great point to end on.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.